Today's case is about Chad. I'm interviewing 5 of his friends and witnesses. Chad took his own life. This is the story. Let's start with you, Brad. Introduce yourself. Tell us how you met Chad.
My name's Brad. I met Chad back in 8th grade or so. We've been friends for many years now.
So you were a close friend of Chad's?
I was.
You would consider yourself one of his best friends then?
I would consider him my best friend, yes.
Gotcha. Then 8th grade, and were you close with him in college through those years?
Yeah, we played sports together in high school, and then moved to college, and we continued to hang out frequently.
Lee, when did you first meet Chad?
I first met Chad at the start of college in the aviation classes that we were taking together. I was in most of his. I'd see him almost every day, and I was helping out with homework best I could. And we started to seem to lose interest towards the end.
Interesting. So you again would consider yourself a close friend. Did you hang out with him pretty frequently?
Yeah.
Or was this just like you guys are study buddies?
Yeah, we met up a couple times after school here and there, but not as much as Brad over here. We talked about Brad, a bunch, about all the things I used to do in high school and when they were
For sure.
kids. He seemed like he was really close to Brad.
Next, let's move on to Professor Cooper. What was your relationship with Brad? Obviously, you're a professor. What class of his did you teach?
I taught some of his business classes, such as his finance class. As soon as he came into that class, he was like, I saw him and I knew he was a really smart kid. Later throughout the year, I could tell, that it was going downhill.
How could you tell it was going downhill? Well, let's backtrack even further. How did you even know he was a good student? How were his grades? Was he engaged in class? Did he just sit in the back? Did he not talk at all, and he just got good grades? Give me more information about his academic career.
So in the beginning, we were in our finance class, and it was a pretty sizable class, the business major and everything. And doing his finances, he excelled in the very beginning. Could tell that I could tell that when he was sitting in the back, people were talking to him. He was able to still get good grades, but then towards the middle of the year, he maintained his attendance pretty well, but he had bags under his eyes. He was falling asleep in class. It looked like he really cared about his attendance and trying to show up, but throughout the year, his grades started to get worse. I could tell that his friends were maybe pressuring him.
How could you tell his friends were pressuring? How did your relationship with him? Did he ever come up to your office hours, or did he ever seek extra help in the beginning?
Yeah. So I noticed, in the beginning, he was doing really good. Towards the middle of the semester, his friends, they would come in with him and they'd all sit in the back together. His friends would be loud, just talking about last night's party.
Sure.
Meanwhile, he would still try and stay engaged, but he seemed very distant because he was just struggling to try and keep it all together in class. So after hours, he did come to my office to ask to see how he could improve his grade. Unfortunately, because he's been lacking on all of his assignments, I had to try and give him as much extra credit as possible, but give him the hard news that with all that extra credit, he still wouldn't be able to keep up those grades.
But at the very beginning, he was trying to make the extra effort. It sounds like at the very end of the first semester is what I'm hearing. That is when he got into the partying scene and started to taper off, and then second semester is when things really declined for him.
Yeah, exactly. So his friends in the back, their grades were horrible, but they didn't seem to very much care about their grades, whereas Chad would make an effort, but just wasn't good enough because he was partying with his friends almost 24/7.
Gotcha. Let's move over to Jennifer. Jennifer, what was your relationship with Chad? When did you get to know him?
This is kind of hard for me because honestly, when I met Chad, he was actually doing really well still in school, and I actually met Chad and Brad together.
Okay.
So
Where did you guys meet?
we met about junior year. I know that Chad had just turned 21, Brad was a little bit older. And it's funny because Chad actually mentioned his professor and having confided in him in changing his behavior. But anyway, so we basically we met, and I took him out to his first party, and that's how we met.
So you took him out to his first party. Did you guys have class together, or is this was just someone you decided to start talking to, formed a relationship with?
No, so he was in Scottsdale, and I guess him and his friend were basically waiting in line.
Sure.
And I had been in the scene for a little while. I knew some of the promoters, so we would get tables at the clubs. And
Gotcha.
honestly, like his friend Brad, it wasn't even Chad, like had such great energy.
Mm-hmm.
Chad seemed a little out of it, but not bad. Like I couldn't tell anything. But I invited them in, and we just got to partying. And I mean, 3 weekends in, I really never saw Brad again. I don't know what happened. Chad went ahead and said that it was Brad's fault, but who knows?
That Brad never showed up?
Yeah.
He
And
just disappeared after for a while?
yeah, we went to 3 club scenes, and then that was it. I never saw Brad again.
Interesting. Brad, do you want to care to explain a little bit of that?
Yeah, I realized that the partying, constant, drugs, whatever you want to put it under, was taking a toll not only physically but mentally and academically. I realized that my schooling was important, and I needed to fix it.
Lee, when did you start to notice a change in his behavior?
A little while in, end of the first semester, started to get bad. When he started talking about Brad, there was just drinking, but it elevated from there. And
Did you guys stop studying together less towards the end of the semester?
Yeah, we kind of drifted apart, and I could tell that he just wasn't motivated. His mind was somewhere else. It wasn't on aviation, and
So you guys still occasionally did hang out or try to study at least?
yeah, we'd always sat by each other, worked together in class.
Okay.
But later in the school year, it started to fade out, and we just started to drift apart.
Did you ever talk to him about any of that, or did he ever open up to you about? Did he ever tell you stories?
Not specific details, but I could put the pieces together that he was coming to class, hungover, their bags, and he was falling asleep, like I said. And I had recommended some of the services and helpful things that ASU has to offer, like tutors and talking to the professor here, and he just didn't take them up like he should have. And I feel like if he did, we really would have helped him.
Professor Cooper, do you have any other resources that you offered Chad? Did he ever come to you about those things, or did you have to insinuate as well?
So
Because again, I got the picture that you were someone that he confided in. I believe earlier Jennifer or someone may have touched on his relationship with you. So how did he talk to you a lot?
yeah, so I always try to offer my help to the students. It's their decision to take that up or not. I can't force them to change the grade or any of that. I offer them help, or not so much help, but office hours. He did confide in me in his office hours. He told me that he really just wants to get his grades up. He didn't necessarily give details. I wish he would, but he didn't ever give me details. He just told me that he was struggling, and I told him not only does ASU have tutoring and academic resources, but there's also some less academic resources that can help you.
Mental health resources.
Mental health resources and substance abuse resources that can help him get back on the right track.
Jennifer, as someone who isn't an ASU student and met Chad outside of school, when did you notice his use became an issue, and if and when did you say something?
So, actually, it's weird because Brad actually reached out to me about a month later. So, although I hadn't seen Brad, he basically went ahead and sent me like an anonymous ping for an AA group.
Sure.
I thought nothing of it at first, but I was in a low point in life, I lived every night for the party.
Yeah.
And I noticed that Chad started to come even weekdays, and knowing he had school the next day or class or whatever it may be, like I had no idea. But basically Brad reached out and was like, hey, look, like, and although I never partook in the drugs, I had warned both of them, and I know that Brad was good about this, but Chad wasn't. So Brad reached out to me and was like, hey, like, please keep him away from certain people, like, do this, do that. And then I didn't respond because I was honestly hurt that he hadn't showed back up, especially when I invited him in, you know, did all that.
Yeah, you're doing
And
him
then,
favors. Why would he not show up and just ghost you?
Well, exactly. And so, but you know, I was in the party scene at that time. And then Brad, I want to say about a week or 2 weeks later, he went ahead and sent me a ping for an AA group. And that week I had literally fallen asleep behind the wheel. And I wasn't driving at the time, but who knows? I could have been, right? So I just got into my car and I just fell asleep. And kid you not 24 hours later, he had texted me about this AA group. I didn't go that time. I ended up going the week later. I didn't club for an entire week, which was really abnormal. Chad kept hitting me up, asking me if I knew where this one person was, which I knew was bad news. And I was staying away at that point. So I went ahead and went to the group, and I noticed at that point, I feel like it was when I stopped going and Chad kept going. I was his only point of contact. Like, I was like, that's kind of weird.
So Chad was going, you said?
Yeah, and I wasn't. And neither was Brad. So, you know, like you would think that if someone was going to go clubbing, they want their friends around them.
Yeah.
Unless they're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
And that was not like Chad. You know, back in high school, we always hung out, you know, had parties at houses, and, you know, me and Chad did everything together.
So from your moment, you're falling asleep behind the wheel, that was your aha moment, and then just for whatever reason, Brad decided to send you that anonymous ping. That was your moment. That was your.
I mean, yeah,
your
I had literally left Chad and a few other friends in the club still partying at 3 a.m. past closing time. You know, they're not still serving drinks and stuff like that, but
You're just there to that.
well, it's a different environment. You have to remember that. We're not with just the clubbers that are on the dance floor. You're with promoters at that point. And that's where I messed up with Chad, is like, you know, he had just turned 21, he doesn't know anything, he hadn't even gone to his first bar, and then you introduce him to something like that. And that's just, I feel like it's very enticing for someone who doesn't understand how quick it is to get involved. And although I was able to stay away from the drugs, and so was Brad, you know, like, but I had talked to both of them. I think he took it to heart, whereas Chad kind of was like, I feel like Chad could conquer anything in his life. I feel like even if he went to class and never studied, he could pass the test, you know, and he would brag in the club. So, but with Brad, I could kind of tell that school was too much to be able to do this type of clubbing. So when I saw Chad going in on like Mondays and Wednesdays, or like,
that's when you said something.
Well, yeah, I had told him he should go to a group. And he was the one who told me about a group, and I didn't know it. I thought he was going to it, but actually it was one in my area. And so
as soon as you started going, that's when you stopped the clubbing scene? Or did you continue to go?
Well, actually, I went 2 more weekends, and I saw Brad both. Not Brad, sorry, Chad. And I spoke to Brad after the second time, and I basically was like, it's too much. I saw Chad doing things like, you know, it can take over. It goes from drinking to smoking to then other things to keep you up until 3 a.m. And whereas anybody else is gonna go home by midnight.
Yeah.
He couldn't. He was still wired, and this is when, like, I told him, like, come to my car, please. Like, he had taken his own car, so I was worried for him. And I never made those same mistakes because I didn't do drugs, and then I also went ahead and always caught a ride, or like I drove with someone else. But
so once you guys were in the clubbing scene together, you guys got close and clearly grew a very good bond, at least in the partying scene. And from all the information you've been giving me, it sounds like you cared a lot for Chad and wanted to at least see his life improve. So that's why you sent out the extra support of the AA and other resources. Is there anything else that you did or suggested for Chad?
so, like, I want to say about a month in, he was getting really dark in his mental state. He mentioned his girlfriend and stuff like that. So, and I had an incident previous, so I went ahead and basically...
Incident regarding what?
I had an incident with a previous partner where it was domestic violence related or even emotional violence. You know, it all blends.
Sure.
And so I went ahead and just basically provided him resources into furthering that and getting help with that, because I felt like a lot of his use was numbing academic failures, but also it was almost like relational. She was controlling him. And so the nights he would go out would be the night she would go back home. Any night she would stay with him, he'd stay in. And although clubbing's bad, like it was almost like she was very toxic for him.
Free time. There's his comfort space. It sounds like, because the picture you're painting is the home life is really bad. And before we even divulge in that, I understand that Professor Cooper has some previous teaching arrangements to B2.
Yes,
Professor Cooper, I'd like to thank you very much for your time here. We'll excuse you now.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
After a short commercial break, we'd like to introduce a new special guest, Becky, Chad's girlfriend.
Becky.
Hello.
Thank you for being here. Let's get right into it. So when did you meet Chad, and when did your relationship with him start? When did you first meet him?
Well, we met at a dorm party, just, your typical everyday party, and we just hit it off right away. It was just some kind of connection there, and, then we, going into our junior year, we had moved in. I moved in with him and Brad, and yeah, just, everything was great.
So you guys were pretty serious. You had, over the years, developed a very good relationship with one another?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, we had our ups and downs, but I think we had a pretty strong relationship, we were doing...
What were your ups and downs?
I would definitely say there's more downs than ups.
Well,
why would you say that, Brad?
Why do you interject?
Every time Chad came to me, all he talked about was how much you guys fought.
Well, I mean, everybody has their rough spots. What can I say about that, Nobody's
And then-
perfect.
And then basically, like, Chad would go ahead and blame me for their rough spots.
Who was the reason why Chad would go out every night?
Getting a lot of tension between the two. I'd like to start with Jennifer. Why did he blame you? What was going on there?
So basically, like, I feel like his girl, honestly, like, and she's making me uncomfortable right now, to be really honest. I know she hates me, but she did not like me because I had definitely gone ahead and introduced Chad into that scene, but I also went ahead and warned him about what else could come with it. I think Brad saw that too, because we had the same
100%.
conversation, right? So I basically went ahead and said, like, as far as like this scene, like drug intervention and stuff like that is gonna happen. You need to know when to say no, but
So
at
you
the
feel
same
like-
time, I never took him out in the first instance, which is what.
So you feel like she's blaming you for all of what Chad did, regardless if you introduced him to it. You feel like you're being blamed for that. That's what I'm gathering so far.
I don't even just feel like I'm being blamed. Like even how the way she looks at me. Honestly, like she definitely blames me.
Getting some aggression.
But
amongst
even
the
him
crowd here.
doesn't blame me because we went ahead and had that conversation. Like
Yes, we did.
Brad, honestly, like even after a
Brad,
couple
it
of
sounded like helped you out a tremendous amount.
See, I cared about
Yeah.
Jennifer.
Yeah.
I still do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
And
even
I
feel like he
cared
cared
about
about
Chad.
me. He cared about Chad, and then also saw where he was helping me and seeing like where I had issues, where Chad wasn't seeing it yet because he was, when you just get into it, you want to
Yeah.
just dive in, right?
Sure.
So he went ahead and was like, okay, she's that intermediate. she needs to be the one to see like there's a problem, and then maybe Chad will see because she was that introduction period.
See, and that's where I realized when I fixed myself, I got better. You know, I looked at others, right? And Jennifer was there. You know, she was one we hung out with all the time. And, you know, I reached out to help her. But then I realized who the real problem was. And I think it was Becky. You know.
Becky, what do you have to say to all of this? It sounds
And
like
just to
everyone's
say, I kind of heard the same.
everyone's coming at you and saying it sounds like you were a big source of Chad's social and personal anxieties, and you're painting a different picture.
You just
What's
didn't
your
want him
response
to
to
have
that?
fun.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, honestly, I really think I'm just the victim here, you know? It just,
Why do you think you're the victim?
having to put up with such behaviors, you know?
So
Before we even divulge into that, did he? It sounds like he talked to you when you were in your study sessions about good times with Becky. Did he ever divulge about some of the issues that he was having? Because obviously we know that Chad was a user. What other issues did he come to you with? Did he talk to you about his money problems or academic issues? Obviously, he was studying with you. What?
Yeah, he came.
How
to
did
me
you see this?
And he'd vent a little bit about some of the financial issues that they've been having. You know, making
but
rent.
she wasn't helping with the bills. Sorry.
Yeah, how do you expect?
Well, hang on.
Chad to pay all
Before
the
we
bills.
divulge into that, keep going.
I mean, some of the things we talked about was rent. You know, groceries. You know, just making ends meet. I'd offered help to him. You know, I was like, ASU's got some, financial assistance programs. You know, whatever bank he banks with has financial assistance programs, and there's always family.
It was mid-first. I also banked with
Yeah.
mid-first,
Right
and I
there.
know that Chad did as well.
So Chad could have gotten some financial assistance
Yeah,
there,
assistance or.
and you brought this up to him.
Yeah, like just planning. Talking to people about finances.
Yes, we hear about the good dates and the good things, the good times, ups and downs, obviously. But what were the downs like? Did he
I
ever
mean, she tried to take him
confide
to his
in
first
you?
day A.
Yeah.
So you tried to get him help?
Well, he'd come home high, out of his mind.
And then he came to the club right after with me.
Yeah.
He literally went to AA with her and then tried to come to the club with me, and that was the night that he texted. And so that was the last night I literally ever partied with Chad, and she was blowing him up all night, but also I didn't know the reasoning. He had said he'd be home at a certain time,
But if you really cared, wouldn't you try harder to get help?
or pick him up from the club. Come get him.
My problem is there was no effort. There was no effort.
But also
If
when
you-
she's upkeeping a household of two, think of this also on your end, she's upkeeping a household of two, also giving him the resources to get better.
But think about it. It's a household of one.